Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Amna Gul from the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. We're back with the course Introduction to Journalism, bearing the code GMC 102. It's an 18th lecture and the topic is types of journalism. We were already discussing these in our last lecture and we did discuss some of the types and we'll continue with the next types today. So we'll start off with medical journalism. Medical journalism is the dissemination of health and medical information and related subjects in the media. It targets regular people rather than professionals. You need to understand this thing, that this kind of journalism is not meant for health professionals. Actually, it is meant for all the general public. So it targets regular people rather than professionals by releasing health-related information through media sources. So obviously, it is released in such a way that it is understood by the common man or by the common people. Medical and health issues are of interest to most people and are commonly reported as they have an impact on medical behavior and awareness, and they tend to affect the society as well. Medical journalism also makes contributions to medical practices, healthcare usage, and government policies. So medical journalism is not related to, for example, information about health and medicine, but also government policies related to, let's suppose, health and medicine. So it is once again a vast area. There has been an increase in the release of the latest developments in the field of medicine and a growing interest in medical information, especially as the world is globalizing and the whole world is kind of interconnected. So people tend to seek information about the medical issues all around the world. It has created a demand for writers who understand medical stories and can communicate them effectively. It is very, very important that for those understanding medical issues should be able to communicate those effectively. Once again, since it is not meant for professionals, so you cannot actually presume that your audience knows this kind of terminology or your audience knows this much details about this thing. So it is needed that the same news or the story or the information is communicated to the general public in an effective way. Then moving to cyber journalism, this field of journalism is booming at a fast pace, and you people yourselves are witness to it. It came into existence soon after the invention of the internet. Cyber journalism is also called online journalism or digital journalism. A cyber journalist reports about the happenings on the cyberspace, which includes cyber crimes and online events, etc. This type of journalism has become a popular career choice of many youngsters because of its interesting work style. People of your generation, the millennials especially, they are very, very much interested in and they are very much pro in cyber journalism. They tend to understand a lot about cyber crimes. They tend to understand what online events are, and these things are currently covered in cyber journalism. Then moving to weather journalism. The work of this type of journalism is self-explanatory by its name. This is one of the, once again, oldest types of journalism and is usually sidetracked by the people. However, there's still a small segment of the population, such as farmers, who rely on the weather forecast for their day-to-day activities. For example, we in Pakistan, we are not much prone to follow up on weather news, even though weather news used to be part of, even when we just had stayed on television. So weather news used to be a part of that segment, especially for the 9 p.m. news. But there are countries and there are cities and there are setups where weather is very, very important. I just shared the example of, for example, farmers. Farmers, if let alone the farmers, for example, people living, for example, you had to travel. For example, you are having your vacations and you tend to plan to go towards northern areas So you need to know the weather, how that weather would be. Are there any chances of landsliding or any other weather updates? Or so same is the case with floods. And when, for example, there are so many people who love to go to Murray, but they are more into that the snowfall should be there. So they are concerned that, oh, what kind of weather would be whenever they are actually planning their trips and stuff. So weather journalism is not relevant to farmers only in Pakistan. Actually, it is just the farmers who tend to follow it because they need information about the upcoming weathers and they have to plan their activities accordingly. But it is slowly and gradually, it is once again becoming very, very important. But apart from that, actually the thing is that you have so many gadgets on your smartphones that they provide you this kind of information. That is why it is still not making into the journalism industry. The weather journalism is not, that is why it is still sidetracked. Okay. Now coming to sports journalism, this type of journalism is related to covering sports events, sports series, or sports person. This field of journalism is fun to work with, and it has additional benefits like traveling to different countries, chances to watch live sports events, and opportunities to meet sports people in person. So it seems like very, very exciting kind of journalism for those who are sports lovers. For example, in Pakistan, people are very much in love with cricket, for example. So someone who is so much interested in cricket can become a sports journalist. He would already have a lot of information about it and will already get opportunities to watch matches live and to meet people in person and make the most out of it. So working in this field requires skills also. It needs knowledge about the rules of the game. It needs omnipresence. It needs good communication skills. So it is not just that you can go and enjoy the match and that's it. No, you need to upgrade your skills. You need a lot of information as well. For example, there are many times that in a sports event, in any match, for example, cricket match, let it be, so someone breaks a record. So if you do not know what the previous record is, how would you know that a record has been broken? So that kind of things you need to understand. You need to know in depth about those things. I'll share a report with you and then we'll discuss that. So here we are with a sports report from World Sports.
अस्सलामुअलैकुम, मैं हूं अख्तर अब्बासी और आप देख रहे हैं वर्ल्ड स्पोर्ट्स। मोहम्मद हफीज की धुआंधार बैटिंग, कई रिकॉर्ड्स पाश पाश कर डाले। 99 रन्स पर नॉट आउट रहने वाले पहले नॉन इंग्लिश बैट्समैन भी बन गए। मोहम्मद हफीज ने कीवी सरजमीन पर बड़ा बैटिंग रिकॉर्ड अपने नाम कर लिया। पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट टीम के तजर्बाकार बैट्समैन मोहम्मद हफीज ने न्यूजीलैंड के खिलाफ दूसरे T20 इंटरनेशनल मैच में मुश्किल कंडीशंस और सिचुएशन के बावजूद कैरियर बेस्ट इनिंग्स खेलकर कई रिकॉर्ड्स अपने नाम कर लिए हैं, जिनकी तफसील इस रिपोर्ट में पेश की जा रही है। मोहम्मद हफीज की रिकॉर्ड साज इनिंग्स पर बात करने से कबल एक नज़र पाकिस्तान के स्कोर कार्ड पर डालते हैं, जहां आज मोहम्मद रिजवान के साथ हैदर अली को ओपनर भेजा गया। हैदर अली 8 और अब्दुल्ला शफीक 0 पर आउट हुए तो पाकिस्तान टीम 16 रन पर 2 विकेटें गंवा बैठी, जिसके बाद मोहम्मद रिजवान 22 और कप्तान शादाब खान 4 रन बनाकर आउट हुए तो पाकिस्तान टीम 4-56 की सूरत-ए-हाल से 2-4 हो गई। इस मौका पर मोहम्मद हफीज ने धुआंधार बैटिंग करते हुए 57 गेंदों पर 10 चौकों और 5 छक्कों से मज़यन 99 रन की नाकाबिले शिकस्त इनिंग्स खेलकर पाकिस्तान का मजमुआ 163 तक पहुंचा दिया। खुशदिल शाह 14 और फ़हीम अशरफ 4 रन बनाकर आउट हुए। इमाद वसीम ने 5 गेंदों पर 2 चौकों समेत नाकाबिले शिकस्त 10 रन बनाए। मोहम्मद हफीज T20 इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट तारीख में 99 रन पर नॉट आउट रहकर सिर्फ 1 रन की कमी के सबब सेंचुरी से महरूम होने वाले दुनिया के पहले नॉन इंग्लिश बैट्समैन बन गए हैं। इससे कबल इस सूरत-ए-हाल से सिर्फ 2 ही इंग्लिश बैट्समैनों को 2-4 होना पड़ा था। जब ल्यूक राइट 2012 में अफगानिस्तान के खिलाफ जबकि डेविड मिलन गुज़िश्ता दौरे साउथ अफ्रीका में केप टाउन के मकाम पर 99 रन पर नॉट आउट रहे थे। मोहम्मद हफीज के 57 गेंदों पर 10 चौकों और 5 छक्कों से मज़यन 99 रन पाकिस्तान की जानिब से T20 इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट में खेली गई दूसरी बड़ी इनफरादी इनिंग्स है। इससे बड़ी वाहिद इनिंग्स अहमद शहजाद ने 2014 में मेज़बान बांग्लादेश के खिलाफ ढाका के मकाम पर खेली थी। मोहम्मद हफीज के 99 रन किसी भी पाकिस्तानी बैट्समैन का एशिया से बाहर सबसे बड़ी इनफरादी इनिंग्स भी है। इससे कबल ये कौमी रिकॉर्ड अहमद शहजाद के नाम था, जिन्होंने 2013 में जिम्बाब्वे में 98 रन की नाकाबिले शिकस्त इनिंग्स खेली थी। ये पहला मौका था कि किसी पाकिस्तानी बैट्समैन ने T20 इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट में न्यूजीलैंड में 70+ रन की इनिंग्स खेली। इससे कबल भी न्यूजीलैंड में सबसे बड़ी इनफरादी इनिंग्स खेलने का कौमी रिकॉर्ड मोहम्मद हफीज ही के नाम था, जिन्होंने 2016 के दौरान न्यूजीलैंड में ऑकलैंड के मकाम पर 61 रन बनाए थे। मोहम्मद हफीज ने आउट हुए बगैर 99 रन बनाकर टीवी सरजमीन पर सबसे बड़ी इनफरादी T20 इनिंग्स खेलने वाले एशियाई बैट्समैन होने का एजाज़ भी अपने नाम कर लिया है। ये पहला मौका था कि एशिया के किसी बैट्समैन ने न्यूजीलैंड में 90+ रन की इनफरादी इनिंग्स खेली। इससे कबल ये मुनफरद एजाज़ श्रीलंका के एंजिलो मैथ्यूज़ के पास था, जिन्होंने 2016 में ऑकलैंड के मकाम पर 81 रन की इनिंग्स खेली थी।
So you just saw that this person came up with a YouTube channel for his interest in sports journalism, and he's doing it on his own. So this is actually, I actually played this video for you to just get an inspiration that yes, you can start off even right now. Just choose your interest, what is your interest, and then start working towards it. This can affect your skills. For example, by the time you are into regular reporting with the department staff, or for example, when you join any organization within the city to pursue your journalism career. So you will have learned a lot. You would have done a lot of work on your own, and this is going to help you a lot. There is no shortcut for skills. You need to learn your skills, and the more skillful you are, the better placement you will have in the industry, in the journalism profession. So let's move on to the next, which is political journalism. This type of journalism is one of the serious types of journalism. This field can be divided into 3 categories, such as local political news, national political news, and international political news. A political journalist has to carefully study political events, for example, elections, or election campaigns, the different bodies involved, different figures, and then report news in an unbiased manner. Being a political journalist is very difficult and a risky job as well, because it can make you bad in the eyes of common people and politicians as well because of your opinionated news. We are very much familiar with political journalism in Pakistan. It is the most common type of journalism happening here. But you know, we need to understand this, that we need to do it in an unbiased manner. This is why it is risky, because if you take sides and if you are opinionated, so obviously you lose your credibility, not only with the general public but with also politicians as well. And since you need to report on politicians, so if they do not view you in good light, if they consider you as a biased journalist, obviously you will have a tough time getting their time for interviews and accessing them in different occasions and stuff. So you need to understand what that your ethical skills, ethical reporting, it helps you out throughout your career. So you need to work for it. The next is scientific journalism. The job of a scientific journalist is to report science-related news to the common people. To work in this field requires a good understanding of the field and effective writing skills. One has to break down the news in simple language so that laymen can understand without compromising with the precision. Scientific journalistic writers write for science journals, science subscriptions, and informative features. The number of readers of scientific journalism is increasing, making the rise in the number of scientific journalists as well. In Pakistan, I haven't come across specific scientific journalists. In Pakistan, we do not have so many specific people working for a single job. Rather, it is one person doing the jobs of many. But by the time you would step into the field, things would have changed a lot. So you need to plan your things in advance and work towards those things. Embedded journalism refers to it refers to news reporting being attached to military units involved in armed conflicts. While the term could be applied to many historical interactions between journalists and military personnel, it first came to be used in the media coverage of 2003 invasion of Iraq. Many people view it with skepticism because if you are obviously embedded with the military personnel, so it affects your reporting, and it usually is not seen as objective reporting, but still it is a type of journalism. That's why we need to know about it. Lifestyle journalism. In the recent years, the interest of people has increased in reading about lifestyle. Lifestyle journalism includes music, leisure, entertainment, gardening, cooking, home, shopping, yoga and exercises, healthy eating habits, and the list goes on and on and on. So this section provides readers with tips to lead a better and healthy lifestyle. It is in newspapers. It is a separate section for lifestyle journalism, and people tend to read it a lot. It's a very colorful setup, and people find it catchy. But dependent on, once again, interests of people, they consume it. Now, education journalism. The job of an education journalist is to report various events and developments in the field of education. The reports created by journalists assist policymakers to make education policies accordingly. The main focus of education journalism is to spread awareness about education and inspire people to go for higher education. The audience of education journalism is mostly students, teachers, and researchers. Then defense journalism. This field provides information about what is happening in or with the military forces, for example, Army, Air Force, and Navy of a country. It provides news about the latest equipment, events, technology of various military forces. Reports created by defense journalists make people aware about the national defense and also inculcate patriotism in the citizens. This is also important, that this is now, for example, also meant to inculcate the emotion of patriotism in the citizens or in the audience. Fashion journalism is a field that deals with the reporting and publishing of fashion-related information across a number of media outlets such as fashion magazines, websites, and television, newspapers, etc. However, a fashion journalism career is more than just writing about clothes and often requires an associate or bachelor's degree in fashion media or fashion design, communications, or a related journalistic field. There is a segment of the population that sleeps with a copy of fashion magazine under their pillow. Magazines like Vogue and LA are elite magazines of the fashion world. These magazines provide information about the latest trend in the fashion market. They also include photos of models, interviews of fashion models, and highlights of the latest fashion shows. Besides magazines, fashion journalists can also work in fashion channels, websites, YouTube channels, etc. And there's a lot of demand for fashion journalism. Just as the name implies, environmental journalism's main concern is with the environment, environmental issues, and environmental groups. And while the environment is central, the journalism aspect is what differentiates it from things like nature writing. The job of environmental journalism is to inform, not just to show or to entertain. It's a serious pursuit, and it deals with serious issues that affect people, wildlife, and the world. An environmental journalist writes about the environment related issues and writes articles to make people aware of the protection and conservation of it. It also includes environmental events, policies held by environmental organizations for various causes. Environmental crisis can be covered by an environmental journalist. Once again, environmental journalism is gaining momentum since we have had this climate change thing coming up, and now we all see that weathers are changing and things are differing. So this is gaining momentum once again, and there is a lot of potential for environmental journalism in future. There have been a lot of trainings going on even internationally, where Pakistani journalists were asked if they were working on environment, so they were invited to learn about environmental journalism. Coming to investigative journalism. Well, the job of an investigative journalist is to find the facts and study the cases which require a lot of efforts. Investigative journalism is one of the most difficult types of journalism, because sometimes a case can take months to years to find information about. Yes, this is very true. People admire investigative journalists, but investigative journalism is a cumbersome job. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of resources to actually dig out a story. Investigative journalists expose scandals and make headlines. Sometimes a story is published as the facts are being found in daily newspapers. To become an investigative journalist, one should have knowledge, persistence, and patience. I'll share a video with you and you'll understand how it actually works. Since the video is self-explanatory, so I'm not going into the details of or into the introduction of the video. Let's watch it and then we'll discuss it. So you see, it asks for a lot of effort. Just for example, Nanny Bly had to actually convince her editor to support her in going undercover. And undercover is always very difficult because you are uncertain how the conditions would be. Would you really be able to get out, or your editor would actually help you out in your release? Then there are chances, for example, she could have been injected with kinds of medicines that would disturb your mental health. So it is very, very difficult to go through these things, and with the passage of time, there are people are so much aware, they can sue you for any undercover activities. So then your sources, your sources are anonymous, and you have to stand up to the facts. This is very difficult, but it seems a very even though it's very challenging, but many of the students are in love with investigative journalism. So if you are, you just need to explore more into it and sort it out. But obviously you cannot start off as an investigative journalist. You have to start off with journalism, and then with the passage of time you can have that much of contacts and the confidence and the knowledge of the field to become an investigative journalist. So we'll move towards a softer setup, comic or graphic journalism. This is an evolving and interesting branch of journalism. Comic and graphic journalism has been an integral part of print media, but it has recently become part of cyber journalism. Cartoons and comic characters are used to depict real-life instances from recent news articles. This type of journalism is appealing and grabs the attention of the audience easily. This style of journalism is part of newspapers, monthly subscriptions, and news websites. Now, tabloid journalism. Tabloids are favorite of many readers who seek entertainment from the print media. Tabloids are hit with many untrustworthy newspapers and websites. Like untrustworthy newspapers and websites actually support tabloids. A tabloid journalist writes about the information from interviews of celebrities, statements made by them, release of a movie, latest technology, newly released books, etc. Tabloid journalism is also famous by the name of yellow journalism. So news in tabloids is highly embellished and unreliable. You should understand this and should never go for yellow journalism. It is not at all ethical to sensationalize any news, and we have already discussed news ethics, ethics of journalists, so obviously you know these things. That's all for today. Thank you.